Thank you so much. Looking forward to talk about bulk today. Yeah, you already gave the introduction. Perhaps also add that bulk was established back in 2006, and then it's still privately held with Bulk Industries, which is Peder Nærbø's company, and Gravråk with Jon Fredriksen as the two biggest owners. Wanted to go through three simple topics. One, which is the problem we're really trying to solve in bulk. Secondly, where do we stand today? How do we look? And thirdly, what's our vision going forward? Looking at the problem to solve, we always try to use this picture. So representing, in our opinion, the two mega trends surrounding us today. On the left-hand side, we have the sustainability theme and the importance of thinking about our next generations. And then on the right-hand side, obviously, the digitization of society and really the first small steps into the data age. And for many things, these two trends go well together. Hopefully, tech and digitization will help us to make sustainability more impactful or have more of an impact on sustainability going forward. But those two trends are also actually in conflict. So let me give you one example. So this is a video clip from the most seen YouTube video ever. It's a song called Despacito. I'm sure many of you have heard it before. It's been streamed actually more than 7 billion times on YouTube as of today. And why do I mention this? Yeah, it's because actually streaming a video like Despacito, it requires energy. So this streaming 7 billion times has required roughly the same amount of energy as 40,000 US households would require during 1 year, just to listen to Despacito and see the video. And why does this happen? Yeah, it's because every time you click on a Google search to look up this video, you pretty much touch 5, 6, 7, 8 data centers that need to do some sort of operation to let you listen to and see this video behind your screen. And if you add this up, this is just one example, of course, of our digital world, you get to this, which is actually back from 2017, but a study saying that the data center energy consumption in the US equals roughly 34 pretty large coal plants, each 500 megawatt of capacity. So digitization has a dark side, and that's a big problem, and it's even a growing problem. Looking at the statistics, this is how the world is predicted, that data centers they are now accounting for roughly 3 or 4% of electricity consumption globally, but expected to go up to more than 10, perhaps 13% within 2030. And because a lot of these data centers are located places with no access to renewable energy or anything like that, we also see a similar growth in climate emissions, perhaps reaching 6% of total CO2 emissions by the year 2030, which would make this industry 3 times bigger than the airline industry was before COVID-19 as a global polluter. So this is a huge problem. It's a global problem, and someone needs to start solving that problem. And that's what bulk is trying to do. So where do we stand today in bulk? And by the way, I should say, the way we're trying to solve it is, of course, to provide these data centers with renewable energy and move the huge data capacities that could be handled anywhere in the world to areas with access to abundant renewable resources, typically in Norway in a European context. Bulk was founded back in 2006, then with the industrial real estate business at heart. That was also solving a sustainability problem, but much more local in nature. That was all about moving the logistics business out of the city center of Oslo. And for the ones remembering well, you might remember that Oslo had one of the poorest air quality metrics during winter time in Oslo, a lot because all logistics went into the city center before being distributed outside again, and Bulk was established to do something about this and move logistics to outside of the city in much larger facilities. And that's how we learned to build very efficiently large industrial buildings. But all the time since then, we've followed 4 fairly simple investment criteria for the things we've done. It has to be sustainable, it has to be infrastructure, it has to be scalable, and it has to have the Nordics as part of the solution. And since then, we've added data centers, seeing this huge global problem that we want to resolve. And to do that, we also need to think globally on the architecture of that industry, then also including fiber networks, which of course enables these data centers to function. So those are the 3 business areas of Bulk today, and I'll quickly look into each one of them. Before that, just looking at the trends, so I think we are exposed to the right type of industries. One thing is that we focus a lot on sustainability, which we all know at least is considered with a premium in the capital markets at the right-hand side here. But also the 2 industries themselves, logistics versus real estate at large. Logistics have been doing very well. It's also because it's a very resilient sector compared to retail, which is going down. You still need to move the goods from production out to the market. And if we're looking at the data center industry itself, it has performed really well, especially throughout the COVID-19 situation, actually, with all the accelerated digitization efforts during that period. So altogether, we feel well positioned in the market today. Looking at industrial real estate, we typically create value in 3 different ways. We have invested in a large plot bank, now counting roughly 1 million square meters of property at strategic locations relating to logistics solutions, typically along the big highways. We are developing these new industrial buildings on the back of long-term rental contract with our tenants. And some of these projects we sell in the market once we've concluded them to get a high capital turnover, and some of them we keep as part of our yielding portfolio. And since 2006, we've developed more than 400,000 square meters of industrial buildings, and we've served pretty much all the major logistics players that you will find in our part of the world, making us one of the leading players in this segment. Our data center portfolio, we started to build up back in 2014 when we invested into what's called Oslo Internet Exchange, which is actually a brownfield development. Used to be an all printing building for Schibsted, the publisher, meaning it will have a huge amount of power, both on an A and B stream connected to the building. And it also happens to be the place which physically connects Norway to the internet. This is where the so-called Scandinavian fiber ring terminates into our country, and where the international traffic is exchanged in and out of Norway. And this building we've developed into a modern data center facility, can scale up to 30 megawatts in terms of IT capacity. Similar fashion, we have a very strategic location which we developed last year in Denmark, in the town called Esbjerg. And Esbjerg plays a bit of the same role on a Nordic level as Oslo does on a Norwegian level. Esbjerg happens to be the doorstep between the Nordics and the rest of the world in an internet way of looking at it. So Esbjerg is where the old TAT-14 transatlantic cable came in more than 20 years ago, and it's also the place where a handful of new international fiber systems will hit the shores of the Nordics and then be distributed onwards to the large energy surpluses further north in our region. So we wanted to be there at the doorstep of the Nordics to meet the customers looking to build sustainable data center operations in our region. And then we have N01 campus, which is located just outside Kristiansand in Vennesla, which is a very unique place. I'll show you a picture of this site. It's a land plot at the same size of Central Park. So we like to use this page in discussions with international partners. And it's a data center campus that can scale enormously. So there's typically two factors determining how much you can scale a data center campus. One of them is the land area you have available. The second one is how much power is available nearby. And as you can see, the land area can scale a lot. At the far end of the picture to the left, you can actually see what's built out so far. If you have a really good vision, you can also see the second scaling factor. That's actually the location of Kristiansand substation, which is Europe's largest power substation fueled by renewable energy. And the estimates suggest that there are roughly 1,000 megawatts of surplus power available at that substation, which means you can scale this campus to be the by far biggest data center campus in the world. And it would be running on pure renewable energy, primarily sourced from more than 52 hydropower plants in the Agder region of Norway, but also exchanging power with wind in Denmark. So this is an extremely resilient point, which is important. It has enormous surplus of power. It's renewable power. And we have regulated land areas amounting to 3 square kilometers around it. So this could, in practice, take on a lot of Europe's data center capacity for the future, and thereby slowly replacing data centers in continental Europe fueled by coal plants and other polluting energy sources. But to enable all of this, to make the data center industry really flourish in the Nordics and in Norway and get access and enable these renewable energy sources, you need to have connectivity. So in Norway, we're obviously proud that we're one of the most digitized societies in the world. But if you look at the big internet map, that's not really the case. We have barely been connected through one single connection, which is the old Scandinavian ring. And in order to build an industry around internet, you need to have real infrastructure. You need redundant infrastructure. You need large capacity infrastructure to fuel the data flows in and out of the region and in and out of the country. So Bulk has alone and through partners developed what you see on this picture, which is a completely renewed logic of how to connect Norway. We have multiple routes going in and out of Norway. The most fascinating one is perhaps the orange line here called Havfrue, which is the first transatlantic fiber connectivity between Norway and the US ever. It's a route which also ends up in Esbjerg in Denmark, as well as in Dublin in Ireland. And then we're also trying to create the ring structure around the North Sea with what's called Havhingsten, the purple one. We've created a brand new ring structure in Norway together with Bane NOR and the railroad authorities, and essentially built an infrastructure that can support industrial internet purposes, unlike the existing fiber infrastructure that exists in Norway, which is primarily to serve the consumer market. So with these three business areas, we really want to go towards an aspiration, which I'll show you now. But just so you understand that aspiration, I think it's important to understand the nature of data centers, which is really the core of the internet. What's important when you decide where to put these enormous capacities of data handling, whether it's storage, processing, analytics, etc. You need reliable power supply. That's a check mark. You need international data connectivity. That's now a check mark. It wasn't so some years ago. You need low energy prices, you need political stability, you need time to market ability to get things in place. You need an abundance of energy, competent workforce, and natural disaster-free environment. Those are the top 8 factors for deciding where to put these huge data capacities, and we believe that the Nordic region, and in particular Norway, has a check mark on all of these, and the growth going forward is expected not only by us, but by the market to be enormous. So that's what we have exposed ourselves for, and that's how we want to start on our ambition to really make internet and our digital society a sustainable one for the future. So our vision is racing to bring sustainable infrastructure to a global audience. We're not doing this to serve, our local companies back here in the region, but we're really doing this to serve the globe's need for sustainable solutions. And if we look at Europe, the Nordic region is the place to be, and in particular Norway, due to our renewable energy sources. If you look at the other side of the Atlantic, Atlantic Canada or Quebec and Newfoundland would be the place to be. So we are also discussing and working somehow with partners there to see if the same logic can apply over there, where the Nordic can serve Europe and Atlantic Canada could serve North America. And if you connect the two, you have actually enabled what we call the renewable giants of the world. Then you could make our digital society sustainable. You would have abundant renewable energy, you would have political stability, you actually have shorter transcontinental distances for the connectivity and transport of data, just because of the fact that the globe is a round one. And obviously with the abundance of power, you also have the very low cost energy access. So our vision, let's flip the world upside down, look from the top, get to the colder climate, get to the renewable energy, and actually make our digital life more sustainable, whether it's watching a Despacito video or doing something a bit more advanced. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jon. We all observe that the ESG trend is very strong these days, and I was curious about what perspectives and thoughts you have on this trend that we see around us now.
I think it's strong. I think the capital market is finally getting there as well. I think there's been people working hard for many years on this, but now it's becoming a really hot trend for the last couple of years. And that's positive. It means that a business like our own, which is very capital intensive, actually can get the fair priced capital into the system and enables us to try to get one step closer to our vision over time. So it's obviously super positive.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for being here together with us on the web also today.
Thank you so much.